I'm Dr. Kimberly Manning.
And this is Dr. Ashley McMullen. And you're listening to the Human Doctor Podcast, where we explore the human side of medicine, along with teaching, living, learning, and all things in between. Using the power of storytelling, conversation, and connectedness.
Hey, we're two dope academic internal medicine doctors, but we ain't your doctors. So if you perceive anything we say here as medical advice, no, it ain't that. Also, the things we say, they only reflect our brilliant Black woman magic mind and not our employers.
You could have been anywhere, y'all, but you chose to be here with us, and we appreciate you. Let's go.
So, friend, you are back stateside.
Mm-hmm.
Do tell, how are you today on a scale of 1 to 5?
I am a 4.95.
4.95?
Yeah, I have to throw a little extra sauce on there.
Okay. Room for cream, like they say in Starbucks.
A little room for cream for that. But after having been away, I guess, it's been probably about 6 weeks, maybe even closer to 2 months.
Yeah.
Except for like a brief stop, my way to Houston. I've been gone for a while, and this just something about coming home to a space that brings you peace and joy, and like being able to reunite with people that you love, even though you've been with other people that you love. It feels good. As I've been away, I also had a very, very joyous reunion with our mutual friend and I think the top human doctor listener in the land of Oz, the Dr. Diarmid McCoy, formerly known on Twitter as Elephant on a Bike. So
that is so dope.
Yeah. So I was between Sydney and Melbourne. Love both cities. I will say, like, Sydney has a very, very special place in my heart. It was just one of the most beautiful cities I've been to, and I adore the people and the landscape. And I actually revisited the park bench that I was sitting on when I learned that my grandfather passed, and it was empty. It was waiting for me. I think it's the best spot in the entire botanical garden. And I got to sit there for a little bit, and just be so grateful for all of it, and I can feel comfortable being grateful for the circumstances that brought me back to that place, and particularly being back in the McCoy household. Like, they really treated me like nothing other than family. And it's a really special thing to experience on the other side of the world, with a person and group of people. And Diarmid and I, other than being doctors, like, there's nothing on the surface that would ever suggest that we should be friends, that I should be like sleeping in his guest room. But it was just so heartful. Like, my heart was full because of the meaning of that experience. And I ended up signing up for a half marathon because why not? It was like 30 minutes from his house, which I didn't realize when I signed up for it. So I did feel kind of bad because it's an early start time, and I had offered to call a Lyft, but of course Dr. McCoy had already looked up the race, had already looked up what time I needed to be there, had made a plan for when we were going to leave the house, and he took me there. And I was just like, of course, you're not going to sit here and wait for me to finish this, for almost 2 hours. And he was just like, it's fine, and pop by the office. And I was like, cool, I'll send you my location, let you know when I'm done. But of course, as I'm getting towards the finish line, I hear my name off to the side, and there's Diarmid with his phone ready, cheering me on and taking pictures, like the incredible human and dad that he is.
So awesome.
And yeah, it almost brings tears to my eyes, as I'm sitting here, just to be so loved by someone, in a way that was completely unexpected. And I think what it also reminded me of is just sometimes we meet people and, especially in our communities, in the places that we expect. And it's just we kind of find these instant connections is like me and you. It happened with me and Amanda, and like, a couple of my other really, really close inner circle. But when you find that type of love across very wide differences,
Hmm.
it really heals something, at least for me,
Hmm.
especially in a world that is so increasingly entrenched in who you're supposed to love and who you're
Yep.
not supposed to love.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So it's just a reminder that we still have a lot of agency and that it's not always easy or right in certain
Yeah.
spaces.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be like that, where you show up in Melbourne like on a hope and a prayer and end up in this, very committed cross continent, like enduring friendship.
Mm,
But when you have the opportunity to, it's something really, really special.
mm. We've talked about this on the podcast before about to have a friend, you got to be a friend. And
Mhm.
I think this just underscores, an openness that you both had. I remember the decision that you made to actually go to the part of Australia where he lived. And, it's funny, I love people, but I am a little bit, probably a little more reticent to do something like that than you would have been. And I don't know, I'm very intrigued by this friendship. And it's just a reminder that, people are people and
Mhm.
really don't matter where you're from. That's the power of humanism, that people connect on levels that are just as human beings.
I feel you. And, and just to, just to clarify, that is not something that I would normally do either. Taking a trip and just going to meet up with someone that I met on Twitter in another part of the world.
You did your homework and you know that
Absolutely.
your very protective big sister was involved.
Absolutely.
So I can't have y'all out here thinking that my little sis is out here in these international streets just going to see
No,
anybody.
believe me,
No,
I
no,
had a
no.
backup plan.
Yes, it was safe, y'all. It was safe.
Yeah.
It was
But
safe.
I think also, I was at that point choosing between staying in my hotel room in Sydney and being sad, or, taking a chance on something,
Yeah.
that had the potential to be cool, or at the very least, a really good story. And I'm glad that it was the former option.
Yeah.
Um, so just want to, again, extend my just endless gratitude for Dr. Dearmid McCoy, his wife Jane, their kids. And then
What was
also,
it that made you go to Australia this time? You just wanted to go?
I wanted to go back because, I loved that. I loved Sydney. That's where I started. But I hadn't had a chance to really explore Melbourne.
Okay.
But also, the thing is, like, having this time off, and we've talked about this too, and actually you just mentioned to have a friend, be a friend. And I wanted it to be, I really wanted to make sure that I was intentional about being able to kind of pour into that. It definitely could have been a thing where just like I did that cool thing in Australia once and then we just like never see
Yeah.
each other again.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I have this time, I have the means, like, and I love this part of the world. Let me just do it again.
Come through.
And
You better live your life, girl.
yeah,
I'm not mad at that.
and do a race internationally is always cool.
One of my favorite memories, speaking of half marathons, is I remember one year I wanted to do the Birmingham half marathon. Mercedes-Benz has a Birmingham half marathon. I don't even know if they still have it, full and half marathon. I was talking on the phone to my late father, who's from Birmingham, and I was like, yeah, I wanted to run this half marathon in Birmingham, but it's on a Sunday and, blah, 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 just naming all these things. He was like, you know what? How about I fly out there and then early in the morning, I just come get you and drive you to the race. And I'll go see my brother and then I'll come back and get you from the finish line,
Mm.
which is literally what he did. He took me, Lisa, and our sons, and he dropped us off and he took all three kids with him
Oh my
to
God.
his brother Hiawatha's house. They hung out and with the kids and played, and then they came back and got us. Then we went back to Atlanta.
But
And
Lisa ran it with you.
he flew from California to do that.
That's wild.
Yep. That was like
Yeah.
Lisa's first half too. Yeah, that was
Oh
crazy.
man, memories with them. That's so good.
Yeah, man, just sacrifices and memories. And actually my both my father and my uncle, both of them are like, gone to be with ancestors. It's a
Hmm.
really beautiful, strong memory. I have this like picture of me, my dad, my uncle, and my two sons, and the kids are wearing the medals.
Oh
Right.
my God. Well,
Yeah, that was
you
dope.
know,
That was dope. I
some
love
say take the pictures.
take the pictures.
And also, speaking of the late and great Tony Draper,
Yep, yep.
I imagine that his spirit is soaring very high in this period. So
Yes, yeah,
what have you,
we got
yeah.
some excitement over here. So yeah, I'm been riding high close to a five, man. I'm gonna just have to go on and break that five.
Yeah.
So as you know, but our listeners do not know, my son Isaiah Manning was recently brought in as a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. For a lot of our listeners, they know exactly what that means, but I'm gonna add this explanatory comma because I think it is important, especially for people from different cultural backgrounds, to understand the significance of this. So, Omega Psi Phi is one of the nine different historically Black fraternities and sororities. But in our fraternities and sororities, many members come in college. Many members come in after college, and the work is kind of continues throughout your life. So my father in 1962 um, became a member of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity incorporated at the Lambda Epsilon chapter at then what was known as Tuskegee Institute in 1962. I would go on to meet and marry a man who is a member of Omega Psi Phi, Harry, as y'all know. Harry was initiated in 1992, and that was special to me because I am a proud Delta girl, and I was initiated in 1992. And
Mhm.
Deltas and the Omegas, our founders, two of our founders were married to each other. So there's always like a special connection between the two organizations. And my father always said, like, when he met Harry, he's like, if I had met him, I would have been like, that should be your husband. He was like the first and only person I ever dated that my dad liked.
Mm.
But as time moved forward, none of the grandkids really seemed to show interest in Tuskegee. And I think a lot of it inspired by my father's, homegoing celebration when he passed, and feeling the legacy of Tuskegee and everything, and the legacy of my father's fraternity brothers
Mhm.
celebrating him after his passing really inspired Isaiah. So he went to Tuskegee. He was the one grandkid who went, which would have, probably, it's a good thing my father was gone to glory because the joy of that would have killed him. Um, but as if Isaiah going to Tuskegee were not enough, on Sunday, April 12th, on the campus of Tuskegee University, right on the avenue in front of the Omega Monument, I and many other people, throngs and throngs of students and family and friends, watched my son and his fellow line brothers or pledge brothers march up the very same path my father marched. And I have a picture of my father marching this path in 1962. And it was really like an out of body experience to see my son do the same exact thing. Before their show that they did, the new initiates, I had actually brought a little bit of my father's ashes
Wow.
and just quietly walked along the avenue and just sprinkled some of my father's ashes, walked up by the Omega Monument and sprinkled them around there. And I put them in a little vial and sealed it and put the date on it to give to Isaiah afterward. And didn't take any pictures of me doing it, didn't really, amplify it anywhere. It was just a moment, but I was like, I knew my father was there in spirit, but I wanted him to be a piece of him to be there physically. And my father's best friend, from elementary school was sitting right next to me for the whole thing. Shout out to Buster, Uncle Buster, or Horace Huntley, just to kind of let you guys know the significance of how deep these bonds run. So, when my father and Dr. Huntley graduated from high school in Birmingham, they both got into Tuskegee Institute, but Buster at the time didn't have the money to go to school. And so he went to the Air Force. My father came to Tuskegee. He pledged Omega in 1962. And after Buster got out of the military, he then went to college. And he said, really inspired by my dad, he pledged Omega later in 1968. Now, check this out. Buster physically was there for Isaiah's pinning. And then on that day, he let us know that the number of people in his pledge class was 13, just like Isaiah. And, they lined them up by height. And out of 13, Dr. Huntley or Buster was number 7, just like Isaiah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just beautiful. I mean, it was beautiful. So Harry got a legacy through the fraternity, and that's a very, very important and special thing for you to have somebody sort of follow on the legacy. So we got to witness our third generation Omega come into the family at my father's chapter of initiation, surrounded by lots of friends. I mean, it felt almost like a wedding. I mean, it was just, the weather was absolutely perfect. I had a lot of friends there, a lot of Isaiah's old friends and friends from growing up. They made the little drive to Tuskegee and came down there to see him. It was just so wonderful and so special. And again, everybody, my joke continues to be, people are like, oh my God, I just wish your dad could have been here to see this. I was like, oh, no, no, my dad would never have lived through this. He would have died from watching this. He would have had a heart attack. We would have had to resuscitate him when Isaiah got to Tuskegee. When it's too many points of excitement. Um, and what's really cool is that my father, he was initiated in 62 and Isaiah was
Yeah.
initiated in 26.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Isaiah's pledge number is 7. My husband's pledge number was 16, which somebody brought to my attention the other day is 1 plus 6. I'm like not all into numerology and stuff. It's like, yeah, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, our what we call Divine Nine fraternities and sororities are deeply, affectionate ties that we have and kind of lifelong friendships and connections. It's just really kind of cool to be on this side of it now because I
Mm-hmm.
remember being a collegiate and then I'm now old enough to have a lot of my near peers with kids taking this step.
Mm.
And one last really special thing I'll mention is I have a very, very close friend who is a whole grown, remarkable woman who is on her journey into Delta Sigma Theta, which should culminate soon, and I will be present for that. So, for those of you who see these women with gray hair wearing sorority shirts that say Delta Sigma Theta or Alpha Kappa Alpha or Sigma Gamma Rho or Zeta Phi Beta, um, that is not because they just need to get over their college days. For us, it is really as significant as wearing an alumni shirt for the school you went to. It's just a very deep, long tie. And some people enter that relationship like well, well, well after college, like my friend. And it is as beautiful and as joyous then because it's all really about public service and social action and building better communities and adding to our world. So I'm really psyched.
Yeah. And Deanna was a alumni pledge, if I recall.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, because at a lot of these schools, it's not enough divided by too much. So everybody who wants to do it doesn't get a chance to do it when they're ready,
Mm-hmm.
or they're not successful when they try. Deanna never had an opportunity to um, pledge Delta while she was at Tuskegee, but she became a member in an alumni chapter in Inglewood, California. And her journey and our relationship as sorority sisters was as meaningful as anything. In fact, the experience that you have in college, it's an important bond, but it's a blink on the radar
Mm.
compared to the vast amount of time that you are in the organization. Yeah, so now I am at a point in my life where I have been a Delta longer than I haven't.
Mm.
I have also been a doctor longer than I haven't. Have I? Yeah, no, I have. I have been a doctor longer than I haven't. I'm coming up on 30 years this year.
Wow.
So more of my life, I've been Kimberly Draper or Manning, MD,
Mhm.
than I have not been.
Well, I'm not ashamed to say that I looked at all of the pictures, at
Yay!
least the ones that were posted publicly, multiple
Yay.
times between you and Joy.
Yes,
And
yes.
I think, the video that you captured and that highlights, the word bigger, like being connected to something bigger
Hmm.
than you,
Yep.
whether it is a sorority or a profession or family or like something, but it never ceases to amaze and awe inspire when people, especially young people, find that type of connection.
Yep. I had put that line from that song that said,
Mhm.
step out of your estimate. I just love the idea of stepping out of your estimate and knowing that you're excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a song by Beyonce, y'all, but she goes on to say, I'm not just preaching, I'm taking my own advice.
Shit.
Because I mean, step out of your estimate. Like, come on, because how many
Mm.
of us are playing small?
Yeah.
Like, woo, honey, that in itself is a whole word. Like you could just
Mhm.
drop the mic. Well,
Whew.
look here, y'all. We got a story to tell, to listen to. So kings, queens, non-binary royalty. Now has come the time. And this is gonna be a long episode, but y'all just, rock with it because I know you've been waiting for Ashley to get back to the East Bay so that she could get cozy in her little office nook area where she normally tells the story
Mhm.
to, settle on down and tell you what the what is. So, Dr. McMullen, what is the what?
What is flowers?
Flowers. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay.
As in, give people their flowers.
Yes. Yes.
And I have to immediately give credit to our other mutual friend, Dr. Destiny Roseman. And I'm planning to visit her very soon. But several years ago at her graduation or R3 talk, people often present some research or, something medical or whatever, but you get to choose your last presentation. And she chose to spend that time giving flowers to all the people who mentored her throughout residency. And I will never forget it. We've done a lot of great talks, but that one really stuck with me. So I was thinking about that today and talk to you and other folks, and even on this podcast about some of the major mentors in my life who really changed me and shaped me and allowed me to get to the path that I'm on. But I actually want to focus more on the smaller words of encouragement, the things that people said in passing that they probably didn't even register, but
Hmm.
I have never forgotten. And also to highlight just how moments of being mean or unkind or, divisiveness can really stick with you in certain ways. Even small acts of kindness or words of encouragement can really shift people in ways that you didn't even probably know that you did. And so I want to go back to my early years of college, Trinity University. Shout out to
Shout
the
out to
Tigers.
Trinity.
After my first year of college, which I've shared with folks on here before, like I really struggled academically. Like got through those classes by the skin of my teeth. And I'd started off pre-med. I came from a big public high school in Houston where you're kind of a dime a dozen. And like, I got by just on basic intelligence, but I didn't know how to study. I didn't know how to really push myself in to stretch where it was uncomfortable academically. And I didn't really have folks really pushing me either. The beautiful thing that I always say about Trinity or any kind of smaller liberal arts school is that, it was really good for someone like me because it kept me from falling through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started, like a lot of colleges, you have kind of your intro science courses that are the pre-med requirements. And they usually start off very, very full.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the year, they have reduced by 50, 75% as people realize, this ain't it for various reasons. So I managed to get through the year, that first year, but a lot of my two closest friends in college who had started pre-med with me had both, gone other paths. I had spent that summer after my first year in my first role doing research, and that's where I met an incredible mentor, Dr. Nance, and gave me back a lot of confidence. And so, I was kind of toying with the idea of maybe, I should but consider a research job instead of med school.
Mm.
I remember coming back to college and now I'm taking physics. I remember we used to take exams in the evenings, and it was just like, the walk to the lecture hall to go to your evening exam was just like, it was rough, especially if you're not feeling great about it.
Mm.
So I have this very vivid memory of one evening being in this half empty lecture hall. And you know how when you're like, unsure of one question, you're just like, let me just go to the next one. I'll come back to that one.
Right.
So I got to the next question, didn't know that one, kept going. Eventually I get to the end of the exam and realize that there's not a single question on this test that I feel good about. And I remember at that point, in the midst of this physics exam, thinking about other career choices. So I was just like,
oh no,
there's no way I can take the MCAT. I just need to let this go. So I finished the test. I don't know what I got on it. I don't think I failed, but I know it wasn't great. But I started telling my two closest friends that I was thinking about maybe doing research or, taking the GRE instead. One of my friends, her father is a surgeon. And at the time he was like the department chair at some very well-known university.
Mm-hmm.
He was very down to earth, really cool. I'll call him Dr. Herb. Her parents had taken us out to lunch one day. It was just like sitting outdoors at some cheeseburger spot near the campus. And for some reason, like folks had got off to order or like go to the bathroom, and it was just me and Herb sitting there. So it was just like me and my friend's dad. We were just sitting there. And as soon as everybody left, he looked at me and he's like, Jess told me you're thinking about not doing pre-med. And I was just like, well, yeah, I had this great research experience. I'm thinking about maybe going to graduate school instead. And he was just like it or not, we need more Black women in medicine. You need to do it.
Damn.
There was no like, let me help you, let me connect you, like, tell me what the issue is, whatever. He was just like, basically his tone was like, figure it out.
Mm.
That was all he said.
Dang. Did he have racial concordance with you?
No.
Wow. Even more powerful.
Yep.
Hmm.
He said that, then everybody else came back to the table and the subject just changed, like never brought it up again. I was just like, okay.
Woo!
Never forgot that. Even though I still wasn't fully convinced myself, that really opened up something in me. Fast forward a little bit. So this lab that I had started working in that first summer after freshman year, I would go back to because it was in Houston. So whenever I was home for holidays or like extended time, I would go back to this lab and work, and really loved the environment, loved my mentor, loved all the people who worked there. And there were these two women. They were of Indian descent. They were lab technicians, and they were older women. They were sisters.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't twins. They were really, really hard workers. They liked what they did, but they also were like very non-BS. So really cool, really sweet, but no nonsense. And I never really actually had any conversation, like any full-on conversations with either of them. It was really just pleasantries and stuff in passing.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this one day I remember sitting at the microscope, like I was counting cells. I was like deep in there, just like, with the counter, looking at cells on a microscope. And one of them sat next to me, and without any prompting or like preamble, she was just like, you need to go to med school. You can't stay here. You need to go to medical school. And again, like there was no follow-up, there was no like unpacking. It just like she said that. And coming from her in particular, like it opened up something else in me. And again, I was young-ish, still very uncertain. But the thing that I was having to contend with in myself was that it wasn't that I didn't want to go to medical school, it's that I was afraid of taking the MCAT. I was afraid of the rejection and all the things, but more than anything, I was afraid of that test. Going back to college, again, it's a small university, but we had a really good Black community there. Black Student Union was like a very active organization, small school. So even if people aren't active, you kind of know who's who. And so among us, particularly in my cohort, there were maybe, I want to say 3 or 4 Black women total who were doing pre-med, or at least who had continued pre-med. And there was this one girl I knew of. She was 1 year above me, but also just kind of quiet. I didn't know if it was just a little bit of social awkwardness or what, but she just never made eye contact with me. Like we would literally be passing each other and she just like would keep her head down and keep moving. So we didn't talk about classes, like we didn't do much. I just knew who she was. And there was this one day that I was sitting in like the study hall area of the dorm that we lived in. I think it was finals week. Everybody was just like out there studying. And she walked up to me and just started a conversation like we had been friends. Like, and like it startled me because I was just like, we've never actually spoken to each other. But she started speaking as if we were cool. She was just like, hey, I did this program last summer through HHMI, the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, had kind of like a pipeline program for underrepresented folks in medicine and science, where they would pair you with research mentors, like at these very well-known institutions. And any university that receives funding from HHMI can, nominate a student to go. And she was just like, I did it last year. You should do it this year. And I was just like, okay, I'll ask around. I'll look into it. I was like, all right, bet. So long story short, I got into the program. It was life-changing because I had never, ever set foot on an Ivy League campus. For me, that type of institution just felt, it's not just that you don't think that you can get in. It's like, it's not even on your radar to try.
Right.
And so being there, being amongst folks and being among other, a lot of other pre-med students of color, like, again, it shifted something. And while I was in that program, I met one of my closest friends, who I've also shouted out on the podcast, Dr. Edith Bracho Sanchez, is a well-known pediatrician in New York and also a media personality. But back when we were just, broke baby undergrads, trying to apply, at that point, I had kind of made the decision, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to apply for med school. But I was only going to apply to places that were, again, any med school is competitive because it's hard to get into medical school. But I made the decision to only apply to some places that were, less competitive. I was even considering like Caribbean schools, which again, no shade to those institutions, but, you and I both know like those schools, number one, they're expensive because it's rare to get good aid. And 2, it can be a little bit more difficult to get into residency programs in the United States. And so I had mentioned kind of my plan to apply to these less competitive schools. Me and Edith were walking, I think we're walking down Cambridge Street in Massachusetts, like heading back to, our rooms at the Harvard campus. And I was saying these things and she just stopped and she, like, I'll never forget the look because she was just confused. She was just like, why would you do that? Why would you sell yourself short? Again, it was just like, these turns of the dial, so to speak, in terms of just like, make yourself bigger, like make your dream bigger. And, I applied to medical school. I got an interview at that very prestigious university. I didn't get in, but the fact that I got
an interview.
the interview was just like, wow, like
It's
I
huge.
can I can belong in these spaces.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now, however many years later, like I'm an associate professor at UCSF, again, a school that I wouldn't even have considered applying to. Now I'm mentoring students here. I would love to go back in that lecture hall during that physics exam and sit next to that 20-something-year-old who is trying to chart out a different life path for herself and say, just hold on.
Mm.
And I think this, again, we didn't plan this, but I think it dovetails quite a bit with what you were saying earlier. And oh God, now I'm forgetting. What was the quote from Beyonce?
Step out of your estimate.
Step out of your estimate. Thank you.
Yep.
A lot of times you can't do it on your own.
Nope.
And just to give these folks their flowers, Dr. Schwartz, near me, Sarah, Edith, these small but explosive gestures of kindness, or even just throwing a flag on the play,
Yep.
really shifted how I saw myself and made me question, like, why am I playing small?
Mm. I love that. These little fleeting moments of people saying stuff to you,
Mm-hmm.
mm, they can like they can like pivot you and like cast you off into the heavens to fly, or they can like trip you and land you flat on your face,
Mm-hmm.
or make you freeze in your tracks. Um, yeah, that's yeah. Oof.
Yeah. And I got plenty of the negative side too. Sometimes it's a lack of representation. You can't see yourself in these places, and nobody's telling you that you can be any different. And so you internalize that very, very early on. And that's what I had been doing. And so anytime there was a slip up or difficulty with the subject or a test that went sideways, that negativity just feels like it's just confirmation. And sometimes you need even a little bit of something to counter that.
Mm, I love the way that like you specifically remember all these little tiny moments with people
Mhm.
and how and what a difference that they made.
Mhm.
Just beautiful. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And look where you are now.
Mhm.
Look where you are now, stepping out of your estimate, blowing up worldwide.
Yeah.
Advocated for a sabbatical and got one. Been all over the world.
Yeah.
Really, sometimes those little like speed breakers in a way are the things that make you like look back with even more pride. I mean, my narrative isn't quite like that. I think I was a little bit more clueless in that I just didn't have I just didn't have any sort of backup plan for if I did not go to medical school. But I definitely feel like at certain spaces along the way, I played myself small, and
Mhm.
maybe even some of the places that I applied to medical school, applied to residency, was me sort of holding myself back. And it works out as it's supposed to work out. But I remember like a couple years ago, I was offered to give a lecture somewhere, and they asked me what my speaker fee was. This particular asker wanted me. They didn't just want a speaker. And I gave a number, and I thought it was kind of like I thought it was significant, and they immediately said yes. So I asked the person who had spoken the year before me, and it was almost three times as much that they got.
Yeah. Damn.
And don't get me wrong, I was still deeply honored to do it and everything, and it was still a good amount of money for an honorarium, but just this idea of how you just make up an idea of your value, and it's kind of like what I said last week, like how you gonna let somebody have faith in you and you don't? How are you gonna let somebody value you and you don't? Yeah, so I'm sometimes working to try to line up what I think of myself with what somebody else thinks of myself and like walk in that.
Yeah. It's real.
So I actually found some of those lyrics to that song, and I want to read some of them because I think it speaks to what you were saying.
Mhm.
This is from Bigger that Beyonce performed for the Lion King soundtrack. So the lyrics say, if you feel insignificant, you better think again. Better wake up because you're a part of something way bigger. You're part of something way bigger, not just a speck in the universe, not just some words in a Bible verse. You are the living word. Ah, you're part of something way bigger, bigger than you, bigger than we, bigger than the picture they framed us to see. Now we can see it, and it ain't no secret. Understand the truth about that question in your soul. Look up, don't look down, then watch the answers unfold. Life is your birthright. They hid that in the fine print. Take a pen and rewrite it. Step out of your estimate. Step in your essence and know that you're excellent. Rise. The Spirit is teaching. No, I'm not just preaching. I'm taking my own advice.
Mm.
Isn't that powerful?
Shit, that's
Something about step out your estimate, step in your essence, and know that you're excellent. I feel like that right there, that just struck me to my core when I heard that. That was why I used that music for Isaiah, because that's a message that I hope for not just like my kids, but for my mentees, for my patients, for myself, like man, like step out your estimate. And especially for people who look like us and people from historically excluded groups, the estimate that the world has given you is so much less sometimes than what you are capable of, that you sometimes need somebody to get in your ear and like step in your essence and know that you're excellent. Rise. That's real. That's real. And I'm not just preaching, I'm taking my own advice. That's a word, man.
That's a word.
It's a
You
word.
know, I can't think of a better way to end the episode
Uh,
than Beyonce.
that's right. That's right. And while Beyonce will not be with us in Washington, D.C.
Although you'll have to go to find out. You never know.
What if we did have Beyonce? Yeah, look, wink, wink. You never know.
Yeah.
Nah, SGIM gonna be like, look, don't be getting us sued.
I know,
Um,
right?
but yes, no, while we will not be accompanied by Mrs. Carter, what you will get is the two of us live recording at the Society of Internal Medicine national meeting. This just might be the longest episode that y'all have had of this Human Doctor podcast, but it is very exciting to record live. So
Yeah.
if you already plan to come to the meeting, we really, really hope you come to our session on Thursday. Just come chill out. We ain't gonna make you do nothing. We're not gonna make you pair and share. You're not gonna have to get in a breakout group. You just get to come and just be a part of the energy.
Exactly. Exactly. See, you're speaking my language.
No breakouts.
No, talk to your neighbor. I don't know this episode.
Yes, ma'am. Well, my friend, I am so glad that you had traveling grace and that you are back safe. I love you and very much look forward to our time together in person very soon.
Absolutely. Same here, sis. Love you too.
All right. Holla.
That wraps up this week's episode of the Human Doctor Podcast.
Special thanks to our favorite brother gastroenterologist, Dr. Chuma Obiname, for the beats. Shout out to the Dr. Ashley McMullen for editing and production.
Mad love to our podcast family at The Nocturnist and the Clinical Problem Solvers, our Med Twitter fam.
And especially shout out to all of you, our listeners.
Until next week, remember,
we see you and you are enough. Holla!